one. Do you remember the 21st night of September when we release this week two NFL reaction and preview and all in between? There's a lot of shit talking that's about to unfold and a lot of fun in between. So Alex Ranelli and Brian McKeon's here. What's up, guys?
What's going on?
Gentlemen.
Gonna be a good one. Let's have some fun today. Where do we start? Let's talk about how this was a week of improbables taking all over the place. There were some insane comebacks, some utter defeats, but most importantly, it was awesome, cutthroat, blunt force trauma NFL football. So let's start with the Jets and Browns, who after we made fun of them in one of our reels, they pulled off an improbable comeback. Down 13 points with 155 left in the fourth quarter, they somehow pulled it off. A 99.9% winning percentage in the ESPN, what do they call those? Those charts, and they still lost. Unbelievable. Everything just went right. They got the onside kick. Corey Davis was wide open in the Browns territory. And Joe Flacco, for one day only, even if it's one day only, was his self. And you can ask the question again, is he elite? So my question with this and the Jets, was this more of a Jets improbable victory, or did the Browns just essentially lose their season already, fucking this up? Because seriously, you cannot come back after this, and you have 15 weeks to go.
I think it's a combination of both. I think it's the Cleveland defense is, overrated, I would say, in this sense, because their secondary that has been well sought after just because of the draft picks that they've gone in recent years and free agency acquisitions, so like Grant Delpit, Greedy Williams, and then Greg Newsome and Johnson III, to name a few in the secondary, have been, hyped up to really be this lockdown secondary. And as we see with the Jets, Joe Flacco tore them up, throwing 4 touchdowns, and you had 2 guys above 80 yards receiving for the Jets. So obviously we're seeing some issues in their secondary. It also could be a combination of maybe the pass rush isn't getting there enough. They did have 2 sacks, the Cleveland defense, but maybe they just need to get there more and get a little, Joe Flacco, to get 26 of 44 passes off for completions. It really shouldn't be happening at this point in his career and the way that offensive line is of the Jets. So, I feel like it falls on Cleveland, but at the same time, the Jets do have, they held their own. They had some composure.
Saved it for Robert Saleh, indeed.
Well, I'll keep it short and sweet. Cleveland blew it. I don't know how else to put it, but, when you give up to Flacco a 65-yard bomb in 10 seconds, and then you miss and you muff an onside. There sucks. You blew it, and it's a precursor for a 2-15 season, if you ask me.
Yeah, literally, this is their karma for giving Deshaun Watson that large contract of guaranteed money.
Absolutely.
There's one loss all in all. And, hand it to the Jets for sticking it in there, because if that happened, we would just continue our roasting of them. And now they're going to play a weak Bengals team. And I guess if they want to, prove what they got, this is their chance. But wow, the Jets really they pulled it off to save their coach's ass. And I mean, it's week 2, but I feel like it's December already with how tense these games and how much weight they are to them.
Well, I actually picked this game before our season preview for the Jets to get their first win this week. So
yes, you did.
Yeah, I feel good about it because, like I said, the first third of the season, those first 6 weeks, all the bad teams masquerade as good teams and vice versa. So you're going to have a lot, I think, each week up until week 6 or 7, we're going to have a game like this that we're talking about.
Oh, we're going to be all in it with the front row.
As long as it's not me again. Otherwise, I'll rip my hair out.
Hey, man, we're going to get to you real soon, Alex. Don't you worry. But first, let's talk about my team who won again. The 2-0, yes, 2-0 New York Football Giants.
Yes, sir.
Okay, it's fit. To be fair, it really could have gone either way. First half was not looking pretty. Daniel Jones almost threw one of the worst pick six I've ever seen in the history of competitive football. He literally was like, yo, catch this. And he dropped, but Ollie, the turning point, Saquon Barkley turns it up in the second half and taking advantage of Baker Mayfield's struggles and putting pressure on him. And wait until we get Aziz and Kevon Thibodeau back. It ultimately leads to a giant victory. And now our momentum is even higher and higher with this. How we feel about the Giants, and you know how I feel. I am on cloud 9. But I'm not stupid either. That game could have gone either way. But do you guys have anything to add to it? Do we think that this can lead to maybe even a 4-0 start? Shouts to Brian Daboll and the personnel because they put in the game. Went Markindale also has some fucking balls, doing some safety blitz to pressure Baker. That was sweet. And you could also count that Baker looks really bad in Carolina after 2 weeks. What else do we have to say about those two? Pathetic, yes.
Well, there's a few encouraging things, Matt, before we put a bow tie on week 2 for you guys. But no, I mean, it was really encouraging to see the third, that you guys dominated time of possession. And even though Saquon was only getting 3.5 per carry, it looked like you guys really had a good handle on the offense this week. Now, I know that you had a few heart attacks with Daniel Jones, but if you can get wins where you can get them on the offense, that's a huge sign because that's what Daboll was brought there for. So I definitely think there's a lot of encouraging signs there on both sides of the ball, particularly how you guys took advantage of time possessions too.
Absolutely, dude.
I would say I'm happy at 2-0. Even if I am an NFC East rival, but I need to see more from them against competitive teams. They've played the 2 worst teams so far in the league, in my opinion.
The 2 worst teams in the league?
Yeah, like I honestly have Atlanta and Seattle above Carolina and Tennessee at this point. They're both dumpster fires, aging teams. One's an aging team, one is a young team. So I don't really count. It's really like It's really like they have a 3/4 of a win against these 2 teams at this point. So I need more. Once they play Monday night against Dallas, when they win that game, I'll see. I'll have some faith.
And talking about the Dallas Cowboys, and we could transition to there. Cooper Rush wins it. They beat the AFC champions. Micah Parsons, how many sacks? What?
2
sacks. The offensive line for the Bengals is like a complete joke. They said they fixed it, and they clearly didn't. Joe Burrow, how many times in total did he get sacked? Like,
Six times.
Yeah, 6 times.
6 times 6 times and 34 pressures.
What in the hell is this? Plus, I mean, wow. What in the hell is this? What's funny? Let's talk about the Bengals. Is it over for them? Were they on a lucky stride? I was potting last night with a friend Danny, and he said that this proves that the Bengals were just the luckiest team in the last 8 weeks of the season, and the luck has run out. Do you agree with him?
Alex, you could go first since I want to talk about Dallas.
No. I mean, this is a proverbial Super Bowl hangover team for the team that loses the year before. I think I have a lot of faith in the infrastructure with this team. I mean, in years past, they've always been kind of the cheapskates of the NFL, but the way that they've backed Burrow, the way they've solidified that line, put weapons around him, really put all of the investment on the offensive side of the ball and having studs on their front 4 and their secondary, including topping it off with a dope-ass kicker. I think they're going to be in for the long haul. They're going to be there every year contending in the AFC with, Buffalo and with Baltimore and
Kansas City.
And Kansas City and the Chargers, and if they can get their shit together. So, I think they'll be there even if they do have a down year ultimately this year. But I still have faith that this is just early season woes where they're figuring shit out.
And they will ultimately can get revenge off the Jets. This is the time to do it because if you lose to the Jets, you have some serious problems. Oh my goodness! Now let's talk about the Dallas side of it. How do you feel about?
You got anything, Brian?
I agree with you completely, except one thing. I feel like I've never seen a team that could go from worst team in the league to best team in the league because of like the need of one position, and that's the offensive line. They really need 2, like a trade deadline. They gotta pay some premier draft picks to pick up 1 or 2 offensive linemen by the trade deadline because if they're sitting at 500, this is a team like last year that could go ball out in the last 8 games.
Yes, for sure.
All right. So, talk to me about Dallas with Ezekiel Elliott. Only 15 carries for 53 yards, but was productive. We had Noah Brown outscore CeeDee Lamb in this game. You know, Mike McCarthy seemed pretty confident. I don't know if you guys saw the press conference where some guy just said the communists will win, but clearly there's something in the air in Dallas after this exciting win down in Jerryland.
Probably
AT&T
Stadium. Sorry, Matt.
You good. But kind of weak run game throughout, but yet the defense really carried them into it. Talk to me about Dallas, Bryan.
It's not over. I'm shocked. I literally was speechless during this game. I had little faith in Cooper Rush, but honestly, that was misplaced just because of my feelings after the first game that there's just no hope of being a Cowboys fan. He looked good. He looked really good. He was 19 of 31, 235 yards, 1 touchdown. He got sacked once. He had a QBR of 78.1. What could you ask for a backup quarterback that's only started one other game in his career? You know, he played well. Looking at both the teams, though, Cincinnati ran the ball 25 times and Dallas ran 27. So, you know, Zeke's production isn't going to be, it's not the way it is because of aging, but it's also just the way the scheme's going based on situation. 15 carries for 53 with Zeke, I'm okay with that right now. You know what I mean? We got, if he was in for the Pollard play, maybe he's the one that gets the 43-yard run for that almost got into a touchdown. So it's really, luck and situational, I feel, with that. I like the combo. Listen, as long as they both of them combined, it was 96 yards and a touchdown. I'll take that any day of the week. It's a committee, you know what I mean? They play like San Francisco in the backfield now. And the receiving core, it makes sense to my eyes that Noah Brown is having a better spotlight with Cooper Rush just because they're both predominantly on the second team the last few seasons. So they have more of a chemistry than that of Cooper Rush and CeeDee Lamb. So I expect him until Dak gets back to get not, I would say, more targets, but I would say more yardage, just in the sense that Cooper Rush knows the route tree of Noah Brown better and could hit him in places where for CeeDee Lamb, he may not know might not have the same chemistry as him and Dak did. So, that's okay. But I expect with Michael Gallup coming back possibly this week against the Giants, for them to, continue the strong push to, stay above 500 without Dak and with this defense killing it. Micah Parsons, the second coming of Lawrence Taylor.
All right. Well, Bryan, let's talk about the one NFL in the room before we put Alex in some pain. Monday nights, I want the New York Giants to put your Dallas Cowboys on their rear ends. I want them to fucking bleed. I want them to suffer. I want the Giants to prove they are legitimate in the National Football League again. I want you to be upset. And a week from today, I want to make fun of you because you made Daniel Jones look so legit. We have some things and people missing on our defense, but I don't give a shit. This is our time. The Giants are 2.5-point favorites, and I want you to laugh because you're so nervous that my team beat your team. What do you have to say to that?
Dallas wins 23-20 in overtime on a 55-yard field goal.
Hey, man, that shit's not going to happen. If we have Kevon Thibodeau come back, I want to see Cooper Rush's helmet come off.
I want this energy next Tuesday.
Here's my thing. My pass rush is going to destroy your offensive line. So this is the only hope, in my opinion, for the Giants. Got to do a lot of halfback draw and a lot of screens with Barkley, because my rush is going to get 4 yards before your offensive line can backpedal 2 yards. So you better just get those plays with a little bit of delay and let him cut right up those seams and get to the second level. It's your only hope.
You are not going to pull this off when we have Andrew Thomas, who's now the best left tackle in the game. It's going to be a fun time. Dalton Schultz injured, possibly. That sucks for me in fantasy, but I just can't start him in fantasy against my team. But you
want
know what?
trade?
Maybe. Send it to me tomorrow and I'll consider it. But all good fun.
Saquon's gonna tear up that backfield like Jimmy Butler and Rachel Nichols. Hey-o.
Oh my goodness. Swipe.
Whoa, how we
Bryan,
doing?
it's gonna be a lot of fun in all seriousness, and we all know it's in good fun. So let's bring it in. Let's bring it that same energy when we react to it a day after. Monday Night Football is going to be fun. Giants 2.5-point favorites. Now it's your turn, Alex. Let's look at this. I saved this picture specifically.
Oof.
Here we go, Alex. Do you remember where you were when the score was tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. Oh man, when you were at that Big E enjoying your deep fried cheeseburger on a stick, do you remember when it was the third quarter and your team was up 20-0 and you blew it? Oh, the pain, just killing momentum. And Devontae Adams was actually stopped by this questionable secondary. And ultimately, one of the most embarrassing plays in the history of football in 2022, Hunter Renfrow fumbled. No, yeah, he fumbles it right in their own end zone. In their own backfield. And it leads to a Raiders loss of 29-23, where you see Kyler Murray dancing around in Vegas, and ultimately some guy was trying to get to avenge your team, trying to slap him, but it ultimately failed, and they just ripped your heart and stomped on it. Bam, bam. Alex, just tell me how you're feeling right now. Why are you mad?
Well, I was pissed Sunday night because I was fat and happy. I was waiting for the EMT to pick me up in the fried dough tent because I was fucking chugging beers and watching the games. And then my team ripped my heart right out of my chest. And I got to watch all this bullshit with Kyler dancing in the pocket like he's on fucking Dancing with the Stars.
Dude, that was the most Madden play of all time. What? How long was that possession alone? He was
20 seconds.
20 seconds.
Oh,
that defense was gassed. What is going on?
Bro, I told you at the beginning of the season, our secondary looks like the last shit I took. And it was going to be the pain of my existence this season. So I can't say that I didn't foresee it happening, but I didn't expect him to hurt me like this. Look, Renfrow was the heart and soul. He kept that ship afloat last year with all the bullshit we went through. And it's like you got a girlfriend who's giving you everything, checked all the boxes for you, and then she just ends up leaving you, like right at the time when you expect them to come through in the clutch, and she's out the door. She got all your shit, she got all your credit cards, all this bullshit. No, he did it to me dirty. He did it to me dirty like that. But I gotta tell you, it's only week 2 in this offense. This is still McDaniel's squad. I gotta ride with this shit going down to the end of the season, and we'll make it work. If it's gonna work, we're gonna make it work. So I can't let 2 weeks phase me out. But 0-2 hurts. It fucking hurts, bro.
Respect there in not putting your hand in the sand. But man, again, Bryan, do you think this was the Raiders fucking up or the Cardinals willing to win?
I'll save it time. Of course it was. We fucked it up.
Raiders fucked up completely. Like, Cardinals are an old team and with a bad offense. Like, I just don't like the Cardinals the way they play anymore. Like, they didn't even have James Conner. They don't even have DeAndre Hopkins, and they put up 29 points. Like, shit. At that point, they should have put JJ Watt running back, and he would have gotten yards on your defense. You know what I mean? I count the Raiders this year as a trial run for auditions for defensive stars in the league to come over, because they're going to see this offense and say, I want me something to go over there and play. So I hope you guys, every time you go to a team, you have a little steak dinner with their top players after for recruiting visits, because this is a lost season. You just got to get some acquisitions by the end of the year, next year.
Well, and here's the deal. Like, they got ball players. They got Yassine from Indianapolis. They got Nate Hobbs on the other side, who's an actual beast. And they got Perriman at free safety. So they got talent. I mean, Perriman made the Pro Bowl last year. And it's just like, bro, you just can't. It's just like, you just cannot give up a touchdown with all those opportunities that team in that stadium at the home opener gave you to stop the Cardinals. It shouldn't even have come to a game-winning drive like that, and it certainly shouldn't have come to that position where they gave you a bunny on a platter for a field goal to take the game home, and they fucking blew it. So there's so many chapters and instances during that game where they could have shut the door on Cardinals, and they just continue to let them hang around. So shame on them.
I'll always say it. You could have as much talent as you want, but it's all about discipline in football, and your defense doesn't have discipline. That's
what New England did, remember? They were never high flyers on offense. They took care of the ball. They won all three phases, and they just basically strangled people out.
That's it.
Oh, the pain. Oh, the pain. Now let's talk about the other improbable comeback, the third one. We mentioned the Jets. We mentioned the Raiders. We mentioned Jets and Browns, Raiders, Cardinals. There was a time in the Miami and Baltimore game where it was 35-14 in the fourth quarter. And how did it end up? We had the Miami Dolphins win 42-38 after Lamar Jackson played one of the best games a quarterback can ever play, both with his feet and in the air, throwing the ball. Guys, just what the hell happened there? Is this Miami team showing that they're legit? Mike McDaniel beats Bill Belichick and Jim Harbaugh, two Super Bowl winning coaches. This offense, when they're on point, when Tua's on point, they can score. Don't forget, Mike Gesicki's a pretty damn good tight end himself. When you have Waddle and Hill on both sides, I mean, obviously Tua's not scored 6 touchdowns every game, but this team can score points being led by a Yale grad offensive genius. Does this show that the Dolphins pretty much will not be intimidated throughout the season? Because the Ravens can be argued as at least a top 10 defense in this league. And they, on the road, prove that they can score against anyone. How do we feel about this?
This is the growing up moment for Tua Tagovailoa. He became a man today. So does Lions. The man is here to stay. This game is a
coming of age game almost.
Coming of age game. It's a coming of age game. I feel the man. He played. In my opinion, right now is like the third best team in the AFC. Just on an offensive look. He just beat them. He came back and he had to keep on answering Lamar Jackson, the human cheat code, every single time. It's demoralizing when you just see that man run 75-yard touchdown pass, convert first downs. And it's like, you hear all the shit about yourself that you're not a good offensive player. As quarterback, you have your flaws and you've seen a god on the other side of the field.
Mm-hmm.
And they somehow rallied together and they did it. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, 11 catches each, both of them above 150 yards receiving, and had 2 touchdowns each.
Both got 200 each.
190 and 171. Yeah.
Okay, excuse me. Well, you're right there.
Yeah, but it comes off on the Baltimore defense got lackadaisical, like the Raiders with a big league, and they started playing soft. It's always a big problem. You start lessening up on defense because you don't want players to get hurt. You start rotating in the backups here and there. You might be just running a base defense, not like, some crazy schemes, because at this point, you don't want to show too much to the next team on film the following week. So you just want to play your base defense and just, run out the game, run out the clock and go. So, it's on Baltimore, but at the same time, Miami, it's time.
Yeah, no, you made a lot of great points. Yeah, I mean, it was the way they won too, because if you look back to last season, I mean, even though they had a positive win column season, they only had 1 or 2 formulas in the way that they won games. They had to preserve their leads. They had to have ball control, a lot of check down stuff, a lot of even though they didn't have a run game, they were very limited, but they really had to rely heavily on that defense, and it showed you that they can win more than one way in this league. I totally agree with everything you guys said. I think that, week to week, depending on where, the power rankings are across the AFC, I could see them straddling anywhere from 7-3 in the power rankings just in the AFC alone. And a lot of things that really concern me going into this game, kind of answered themselves. The one stat that really was profound for me was third down efficiency. 7 of 11 for Tua in that offense was unbelievable. They dominated time possession, over 9 more minutes, even though Baltimore dominated them early in the first half. But the resilience of this team, especially for a rookie head coach, we haven't really seen through the first 2 weeks across the league. And I think this could be a special year if they keep their health and their wits about them. So let's see what happens.
I'll mention one thing that I always look at for stats in games like this. You look at who actually got the most tackles on defense. And if you look at Baltimore's defense, the top 5 out of the top 6 tacklers on the team were in the secondary at cornerback or safety. That's very key. If you look at Miami, though, Miami's lead tackler was a defensive end, and the other 2 were 2 safeties playing at slot, so really at the line. And the next one was a Landon Roberts, a linebacker. So that's where you got to really look at your defense and show where the passing is, and the skill of, your rush and your secondary, be able to get pass deflections. You got to look at those tackle stats.
Yeah.
No doubt. Tempers really flared in New Orleans this past week with Mike Evans versus Marshawn Lattimore again, even though people should say, didn't Leonard Fournette, wasn't that his battle to fight? And you see Tom Brady, the 45-year-old man, get in his face. And a game that was pretty boring and didn't really show much. But ultimately, the Bucs break the skid. Tom Brady gets a win in New Orleans, which is rare. Concerns about Jameis Winston's health is apparent. And now we'll see what's going on in the NFC South from here on out. Besides the fight and besides the Bucs winning, what else did you guys get out of this matchup?
Fire the doctor, the New Orleans Saints. Like, the fact that he has 3 back fractures before the game, I text you guys, is like, why is he even on the field? And he got sacked 6 more times this game. Like, do you want to kill someone? Like, this game is not worth it.
That's the Chargers doctor.
Is it? Is it the same one?
No.
I'm saying
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, he is. Basically, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't understand that. Like, before the fourth quarter, Jameis Winston was playing okay. Listen, he threw picks. He had it happens. You have a bad game. But like, I also think injury and having that amount of pressure on him, just literally physical pressure from that defensive line, is the reasons for those things to occur. And then with Tampa Bay, I'm never starting Tom Brady again at quarterback for my fantasy league ever, just because he's so much less of what he was. I never thought I would see the drop off from Tom Brady. I'm seeing the drop off. And I know he doesn't have weapons, and Evans was gone. Julio Jones and Godwin were out. Okay, but like, Tom Brady used to be able to do more with less. And I don't know. I'm seeing age. I think his couples therapy on Wednesdays when he has off might be affecting him. I'm a little worried about this Tampa team, to be honest.
Well, I think all 3 of us were, to some extent, in terms of how we want to quantify concern. But I mean, I'm not going to judge the GOAT by, the week on the road where they're playing their divisional rival, because we know that, leading up to this week, that he's had a lot of trouble facing off against New Orleans, both home and away, in years past since he got to Tampa. So I'm definitely not going to judge him on the sins of that game. It was pretty ugly. It was kind of just a tough him out kind of game, but it definitely showed me a lot about their mental fortitude and how they can push through adversity throughout, the remainder of the season. Because like you said, Bryan, he's bereft of a lot of his talent on offense. He doesn't have the weapons that he had in years past. He didn't have Godwin and Gronk and so on. So I think that the fact that he was able to do what he could with the roster that he did have makes me feel more confident that when he gets guys healthy as the year goes on, they'll be able to face up with some of these heavy hitters in the NFC. And luckily, the conference is not as good as it was in years past, so they have that going for them too.
I'll agree with you with that. I'll rephrase my thing. I'm noticing his age a lot more than in the last 2 games. Even against Dallas, I noticed his age. The man's 45.
Right. Yeah, no, I hear you. And I have the same concerns. I think what they'll start doing is they're going to start sizing up some of these week-to-week schedules and really picking their spots where they want to put Brady out there, because you really don't want to run him any risk with a really strong front four pass rush. So I got you.
Absolutely.
Last funny thing on this. What do you think about Bruce Arians on the sidelines?
I looked twice. I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
One of the lamest excuses I heard, apparently, I don't know how accurate this is, and I might be fumbling what actually happened. But they said because of all the personnel in Tampa, there just wasn't enough room for them because of for the game production and stuff. I don't know, but it was probably just a lame excuse to just get away with it.
Last quick thing too. If you took a quick glance at the schedule, they got Green Bay at home, and then they have the Chiefs coming home as well. So they could very much lose out on both those games, but I would still feel confident moving forward that they figure some shit out, because you got the Falcons, you got the Steelers on the road, and you got the Panthers. So those are 3 gimmies to get you back into place.
Yeah, should at least win one of them to keep some momentum, and we'll see what happens. The Bills on Monday night, 41-7. So who wants to say that they're going to go undefeated this year? Is this team as perfect as it can be? They finally had their first punt in the third quarter. They just keep scoring. They just keep stopping. They score on both sides of the ball. Josh Allen already making a case for MVP after 2 weeks. Bryan, you put your hand up. Bills are going undefeated this year. You want to go on the record for that?
Yeah, absolutely. Have you ever seen the team play this mad before?
Not necessarily. No, I've
never.
Not in except on hardo high school teams.
Yeah, I've never seen a team play this frustrated, anger from the years. It's like they took it. I don't know. Maybe Jim Kelly and Thurman Thomas talked about the 4 falls of Buffalo, and then was like, "You don't want this to happen again."
And then don't forget losing on the luckiest circumstances for Kansas City. Maybe this is it. Crazy. I don't know. It's been a long time. I mean, it's never happened. A long time since they won the Super Bowl, but
it's crazy, but it's also an overreaction. It's also an overreaction. Tennessee's the worst team in the league right now, just because of offensive. Derrick Henry looks like he's a shell.
Derrick Henry does look pretty bad.
The offensive, which at the same time though, running back is one of those positions like receiver. It's dependent on another person. The offensive line is not playing up to the way they need to be. They've lost some people, some injuries and stuff like that. It's age. What do you say?
I'm sorry, Brian. I just want to say they lost Taylor Lewan. The first quarter?
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. So it's it's hard. You know what I mean? It's hard. And that Bills defense is ridiculous. So you know what? It happens. But the passing game for the Titans is the weak link, and they really I really think they need to go to Malik Willis sooner than later, because I think Ryan Tannehill's a starter in the league, but I think for this team they need the mobility because of the lack of offensive line talent and the way the receiving core is. They need that mobility to open up doors. So I expect him to be starting by week 5.
Yeah. I think the only thing that could really derail this team is just injuries and attrition. Maybe getting a little fat and happy through the season, but I think I really doubt it, because I think this team is so goddamn hungry. They look pissed off every possession they have, and I understand that it's up in Buffalo and those fans are starving pack animals, but I love everything about this team. There's really nothing I could even say to really critique this team. I like what I saw with James Cook. I thought he had a bounce back confidence boost, picking up about 50 yards to carry in that 53 yards, with 4.8 per carry. And, just Diggs being Diggs. They were getting the ball around. Kumaro had 50 yards. Dawson Knox got touches. McKenzie. They look not only indestructible, they look unpredictable, which is almost even more scary because it means they can beat you in such a multitude of ways. And I think the cherry on top with that front four was getting Von Miller. Harrison Phillips was a beast last night. A guy that the guy's number they never call through the season that really gets no love, but I wanted to give him a little shout out today too. Is that this team looks just absolutely unstoppable. I mean, they dominated every facet.
Without Gabe Davis.
Yeah, that too. It's even crazier.
41 points without 41 points without probably a top 15 receiver.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, it looks like the only thing, and hope it doesn't happen, is if injuries plague this team. And I mean, when you make the Super Bowl champions look like a joke, then the reigning number 1 seed in the AFC look like a joke. Well, it's going to be a fun season up in Western New York. So, Patriots and Steelers, I think I can accurately say that my whimper prediction became true. 17-14, the Patriots do win, but pretty much it was the defense that saved the Patriots again with a Wattless Steelers team. Mitch Trubisky only had 168 yards with 31 attempts and only completing 21 of them. Throws a pick. Najee Harris only gets less than 50 yards on 50 carries. Pittsburgh, even though they're at 500 at the moment, there's plenty of concern. And I guess the big question we can ask is if it's time for Kenny Pickett to come in the forefront. Nope. You say no, Bryan?
The offensive line is just too bad. I don't want to see him get murdered. I'm going to be honest with you. This offensive line is very sketchy to me. And I think Trubisky is getting pressured a significant amount. Yes, he has some limitations, but I just think that this is not a quarterback friendly offense right now based on what I've seen in the last 2 games.
Yeah, but here's the thing though. So you're going to stagnate his entire growth for 18 weeks because they have a bad offensive line?
I'm all about the mental reps and listen, I've seen too many rookie quarterbacks and, go into the league and get decimated because of the lack of resources around them. Like, let's look at the Jets. Like, know what I mean? Like,
they put Trey Lance on the sideline all of last season. In week 2, he's already hurt. So I don't even understand the logic behind keeping a guy sheltered like that. He's a 4-year college starter. This is an exception, not the rule. And I think that when you have that kind of experience and raw talent and a young guy who's built the right way, you can afford to throw him to the wolves. And I just think that there's so many more things that you could dial up on offense to protect a guy, getting the ball out quickly like they did with Big Ben. He has receivers. He's got a stout running game, even once Najee Harris comes back. But, I mean, they have very winnable games through the midway of the season. So it depends, I guess, until the point of by which you actually release him out, as a starter. Like, I wouldn't advise putting him out there, the week against the Eagles or a week against the Dolphins, but I would put him out there against the Atlanta game, midway through the season. So I guess it just depends on how much you want to salvage of the season, what your expectations are, and how much development you want to get in year 1. Because I agree with you. They have offensive line problems. I just don't think that sheltering him on the sideline like we did with Trey Lance in San Francisco isn't necessarily the way to go, because I understand that he's also an exception, but you got to find out what you have.
Yeah, I understand that. I just think that I think he is ready, and I think he's ready to start. That I don't think it matters if he gets these, 8-10 games and, they're still going to be bad. In my opinion, I don't really see the upgrade as much from Trubisky to Pickett right now, just because of the offensive limitations. Even if they have a very talented receiving core, but they don't have a really good receiving core yet. I still need, like, Deontay Johnson's great. Claypool, to me, is very Juju Smith-Schuster, like 50-50 every day. Pickens is still coming into his own. Freiermuth is good, but I don't know. I'd like to see him start by, let's say, week 8, but I think right now, just based on the schedule I was looking at, it might be better to go to the other half of the season. After the Eagles game, I would say is when you could start playing them, because then they do Saints, Bengals, Colts, Falcons, Ravens, Panthers, Raiders, Ravens, Browns. That's good. that's not that bad of a thank you. That's not bad of a defensive front they're going up against in that later half, but they play Bills, Bucks, Dolphins, Eagles, and then Saints 5 straight. That's a beating. Let's call it the way it is.
So I know. I mean, I'm looking at the same schedule as you, Brian. I think that right after that, I mean, you got the home game against the Bengals. I think that's very winnable, especially with Bengals concerns right now. I think the Colts game is a little overstated in terms of what you could actually see from Pickett. And then I think the Falcons game is basically the closest thing to a bye week. So I think those 3 games would probably be the things that I would eye. And quite frankly, maybe even the Saints game at home on November 13th. That's very possible.
Agreed.
All right.
How do you feel about the juggernaut that was the Thursday night game with the Chiefs and the Chargers? Chargers led early, but Patrick Mahomes, I think it's fair to say that he is fine with his new receiving core. I mean, throwing the ball to no matter who it is, despite Kelsey having a bad game, they did really, really well. And a pretty inspirational pick 6 by that guy Watson, who worked at Wendy's and now making an impact on the first Amazon Prime game. I thought the presentation was pretty good. Al Michaels, I oddly can't get tired of him. In Kirk Herbstreit was pretty good in the playing the color commentary role. Even though some people criticized, they felt he was a little too nervous, but whatever. Regardless, that Thursday night on Amazon, I think, is a good tradition. And what do you have to say, Alex?
Well, you know why he was so nervous, because he had Bezos' little beady eyes looking through the freaking press box with Goodell there.
Dude, how is Bezos so jacked? What does he put in his
so
body?
You know why?
He doesn't work.
True. Fair enough there.
I understand. He wakes up at noon and he goes works out.
He's jacked. He's jacked because he's worth $200+ billion and doesn't want to look like a pushover.
Clearly. But back to the game itself.
Yes.
Both quarterbacks played stellar. You know, people are concerned about Herbert with the ribs, but he seems he's going to be okay. It looks like he's set to start this upcoming week as well. But I think the best thing to take out of this is that Mahomes clearly has potential to show that no matter the receivers, he's going to play honestly. Maybe it's too early to say, but as long as he puts the years this way, he start playing like a Hall of Famer already. Again, still has many years. He's got to win a couple more Super Bowls, but this guy is making it work with people like McKinnon and Valdez-Scantling and Juju. Well, not Juju. Juju hasn't.
Mecole Hardman.
So far. Yeah, Mecole Hardman. Like Patrick Mahomes is just fine and doesn't succumb to pressure. And shouts to Matt Amendola, who left the Jets, and he got some solid field goals as well. But it was definitely a battle, and we can see a rivalry growing. And also Keenan Allen was out for Herbert, but he still made it work for Mike Williams. And like I said, a fun, blunt force, hell of a game. Definitely a thriller. What do you guys think about this matchup?
I got a lot of heat last week about the Mahomes take, saying he's like Peyton Manning, Brett Favre, 2 Hall of Famers, just because, he could throw 5 interceptions, but the way in which he plays could lead to interceptions.
Yes, we had some comments say some mean things, which we love, by the way. Keep it going.
Oh, yes, we love that. Exactly. I'm all about the banter. I'm okay with being a Mad Dog Russo of this podcast. But the way I'm going to say this, though, I think both of you probably watched the game. He almost threw about 3 or 4 interceptions that got dropped. So,
yeah.
Oh, yes. And definitely the refs like to help him out.
And he definitely helped him out. So I just want to say, the man is flawless. And I'm not saying he's not going to be a Hall of Famer or he's not a top 3 quarterback in the league, but there is a flaw in his game. And it's that he's a gunslinger. Gunslingers are known to throw interceptions. Yes, he only throws 7 to 10 a year. But at the same time, if you look at his stats, he has those games where he throws 3 or 4. And then he goes flawless for a couple other weeks, and then he does 3 and 4 interceptions. So,
Well, yeah, and I think he gets a little too gun happy too, because he's got Andy Reid calling the shots half the time, and he's been known for being pass first guy against when he should have every opportunity to run the ball and chooses not to. So I think that part of that hubris is definitely coming from the top down with Andy Reid. But again, we get a lot of hate in the comments from the show, and I say bring it on, because we're equal opportunity offenders, and
exactly
we want the blind watching the games with us. We're gonna watch it with the blind. It's okay. It's all good.
Yeah, absolutely. But overall,
and we know what the hell we're talking about too.
Yeah, the Chiefs team looks good. I have really no worries with them. Defense is proving me wrong for my week 1 take, so I'm happy about that. Hilaire is looking well. McKinnon, they have a good running back duo. Chargers, the defense played great, even if they let up 27 points. Derwin James airlifted Kelsey, which I don't know. Do you guys think that was a fumble?
I thought it was.
I thought it was a fumble too. Even
Me
if it
too,
wasn't a
but,
fumble, it should have been on principle.
They downplayed it.
Yeah,
Do we
exactly.
feel that the NFL and the refs come together and say we need to make Mahomes look good?
Especially when he gets that Kermit voice going.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It happens. It's a game. It is what it is. But my one worry about Chargers is the run game. There was a rumor mill over off season that said that Eckler asked the team to get less carries because he wants to last longer and be more involved in the passing game than the rushing game. If that's the case, Sony Michel needs to have more than 4 carries in this game, and he should have the 14 carries that Eckler had because he is a workhorse, ground and pound north-south guy. And then Eckler should just be the Danny Woodhead type kind of player from Chargers time of old, and get those screens and draws and some outside run plays that he does better with on that offense.
Well, if Eckler wants to last longer, he could take a blue chew. But I think this offense looks a lot better when Keenan Allen comes back, because Mike Williams, he ended up with 8 for $113, but he was getting blanketed in the second half of that game. And I think that if you keep your if that front four for Kansas City keeps that running game to as limited as they were, I think the problem is that the Chargers become instantly one-dimensional on offense and
Agreed.
shut down. I think that the pressure of the spotlight kind of got to Herbert to kind of almost do too much hero ball in the second half, and I think that typically that gets him in trouble, especially with a team that doesn't do well with the spotlight as is. So I think later in the season when Kansas City goes to the Chargers, I think that there'll be a better game to watch in terms of a rematch.
Agreed.
dude.
Proudly sponsored by Blue Chew.
The Detroit Lions offense scored another 30-plus points again. At first, the Commanders looked really bad. They somewhat put a fight up, but Lions kept scoring. Is the Lions offense legit with Jared Goff, with weapons like Amon St. Brown and Swift and, people like that? The Lions are Lions cooking up something, trying to make their first playoff appearance since 2016. Are they on the way?
I'm so excited. Like, I love football. Like, this is why I love football. Like, this team is fun to watch. It's old school fun. Like,
Dan Campbell. That's all you got to say.
And I told you last week they were going to beat the shit out of each other, and they beat the shit out of each other. It was great.
Yeah,
it was exciting to see. It's like literally
Commanders
an advertisement
scored a
for
bunch
CTA.
at the end, but I know what you mean for sure. And Aiden Hutchinson making the Jaguars regret passing up on him.
Absolutely. And listen, like Goff, Goff had a bad year last year. They were a bad team. Like, if you look at his stats in LA, right? 32-12, 22-16. This is TD to interception ratios, 28-7, 20-13. Okay. He started getting the 2-to-1 ratio. He's already at 6-1 right now. He's going to continue to grow. He's at 100.2 QBR quarterback rating and a 55 QBR. He's at 13th right now in the league in QBR. He's doing well. He's doing his job. They're relying on the run game. Amon St. Brown's a number 1 receiver easily now. And the defense is playing very Patriot-like in the way that, they play discipline and they play smash mouth football. And I'm really excited for this team. And I want to continue to see them develop and climb. It's exciting. I'm proud. It's like watching. I'm proud of this team.
It's like the kid getting off training wheels, right?
Yeah, it's really. I was like, wow, like good for this team. Like they got their act together after some mediocrity and some bad years, so it's good for them. In Washington, Carson Wentz actually looks really good. Curtis Samuel, in my eyes, comeback player of the year if he continues to play like this, just because of the sheer fact that he was hurt last year. And fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Went to Rasmus Hall in New York, just so you know.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said, Brian. I'm really excited about this team. I said they were kind of somewhere between a ceiling of 7 wins. A floor of 7 wins and a ceiling of 10 wins, only by virtue of a weak division and a weak conference. But I'm really excited about this team because we all shit on Dan Campbell last year for being a little crazy at his opening interview with the press. But I think that his actual hard-nosed style and approach really resonated on this team, which is why they fought all the way to the last week of the season last year. And I think, before we, start making qualified standards about this offense, because we know what Goff can do and his limitations from LA, even with a mastermind calling the plays over there, I think that I want to couch my expectations with them just by virtue of, their opponents. I think they're definitely a combination of a pretty decent low expectation offense in conjunction with a schedule that permits them to really thrive and succeed. So I think they're going to put up numbers and look a lot better maybe than they're made out to be. But in the meantime, I think that they're going to be a recipe for great football through the rest of the season.
I'll say one thing to say. I'll say this. You ever see someone that is an average and a skill set in some specific thing, right? So let's say school. An average student gets put in a really complex situation and he doesn't do well because it's overwhelming. And then you put him in an average situation and he flourishes. This is Jared Goff. He's not built for the complexity of the LA offense. He's built for a very simplified offense and he's doing well in it. To each their own, you know what I mean? And if he continues to play like this, I don't care what he did in LA. If he's winning and putting up great stats in this offense, then it's great.
You think maybe some of that is just a byproduct of too much expectations heaped upon him in LA too?
I would say too much expectations, and it's that it was a very complex offense with a lot of moving parts, and it was a West Coast style offense, so it's a lot on timing and rhythm. And some people are good at that, some people are bad. It's just what it is. Like Aaron Rodgers, there's not many people like Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, to name a few, that could just go to different systems and flourish. You know what I mean? Like that's there's certain players like that. They're ubiquitous. You got a guy like Alex Smith, game manager, Kirk Cousins. They do well in certain situations and certain schemes. You wouldn't put Kirk Cousins in a Ravens offense; it wouldn't work.
Well, my only counter to that is, like you just said, Kirk Cousins did have McVay in Washington, and they actually thrived. And I'm wondering, did they actually dumb down the offense for him? I'm not sure.
I don't know. I'm trying to think back from those years, and the offense really was pretty very 2D. It wasn't anything crazy. It was Deshaun Jackson fade route, Pierre Garçon on a slant route, and run the ball with Alfred Morris. So it wasn't it? You know what I mean? Jordan Reed before 2 catches and a concussion. So it wasn't nothing crazy. So I'm curious if he just needs a simplified offense.
Yeah, or just a support staff, because like you said, when you're heaped a bunch of expectations and you have the complexities of an offense and maybe be on your shoulders, even at a number 1 pick, I think that it may be too daunting sometimes.
Yeah.
The Indianapolis Colts scored 0 points against the Jacksonville Jaguars. For a team that so many people had expectations, it's not an overreaction because the first 2 weeks we have seen very poor football. Matt Ice looks like he should have retired. Not holding it down. Some weird decision makings from Frank Reich, and an embarrassing loss for Indianapolis. Do you panic if you're a Colts fan?
Oh yeah, I would panic. It looked like Matty Ice left his balls in the cryogenic freezer. This guy looks nothing like the freaking MVP Matt Ryan that he once was. And I'm not saying that he was supposed to be going into the season, but I purposely picked this team because of the stacked roster. I expect them to win 12 games, and I still expect them to win 12 games by virtue of a weak division. So, I'm pissed with what I'm seeing. My girls got Matt Ryan in fantasy. That's neither here nor there, but they need to step up. They need to support. They need to start winning these freaking games. These are supposed to be the easiest parts of their schedule. Disappointment.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. We all thought that they were going to be Super Bowl contenders this year, and now they're looking like bottom of the barrel. I also think that Jacksonville's very underrated offense, and they're starting to put it together. And I'm going to go back on my take last week and where I said that I thought that Trevor Lawrence wasn't all that. He did 25 of 30 for 235 and 2 touchdowns. That's pretty good. James Robinson's back off the Achilles, looking great. Mr. Matt Brown's running back Etienne is looking like crap for fantasy. I'm sorry, bud.
Pretty pissed about
yet
that.
Again, if you want to make a trade,
not getting any touches whatsoever. It's bad.
If you want to make a trade, let me know. So I don't know.
Let's
I really
discuss
don't
for
know.
sure.
It feels bad. Colts might be time to draft a quarterback. The free agent acquisition isn't really been your thing.
Yeah, we'll see how the next few weeks. Absolutely dire wins ahead for them. The Eagles on prime time hold off the Vikings. Kirk Cousins just sucks in prime time. Defense was a true highlight. And Jalen Hurts, how about him? Doing great both running and throwing the ball. Was this Jalen Hurts' coming of age game, or do we still need to see more from him?
I need to see more, but this is a path in a right direction. This man is balling out on a budget, I would say, just because of they got so many weapons, and I hope that this continues to flourish and stuff like that for them, because if this season goes the way they are, they might be cap restricted at some point because of how many extensions that they're going to give out to these offensive players. And the defensive front is just phenomenal on this team. We all know about that. In the last decade, they probably had the most consistent front seven in all of the NFL with Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, and whatnot. Phenomenal. Darius Slay is playing like a top 2 cornerback with him and Ramsey, I would say easily. The man is, you leave Detroit and you do
Great
wonders. It's crazy. Great pickup. They got Bradbury. Like, this team is built to, for the distance. I'm excited. Minnesota, I'm disappointed by them. I really thought that they could beat this Eagles team. I thought it was a winnable game for them.
That's how when Justin Jefferson barely when
Jay Jefferson, Jay Jetta.
Yeah, when he had an
6 for
game.
48. So listen, it happens. You have bad games here and there. It is what it is. Like, looking back on this season, if the way the Philadelphia continues to play, will we say, oh, that's really a bad loss? It happens. They won the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? You don't know. But yeah, so Jalen Hurts is looking the real deal. I'd like to see him when they play Dallas against the real defense.
Yeah, I really have nothing to add to that. I thought it was it was a perfect game all around. Definitely, perfect from a competitive standpoint, as a fan, what I want to see. I think the Eagles do have a little bit of improvement as this year goes on, but they definitely have the recipe and the formula, and they're way ahead of schedule with Sirianni. I think he's going to start deserving a lot more credit and a light shine on him as the year continues to move on, because he was really dealt a poor hand, I think, that when he took over when Peterson left. I think the only thing that concerns me is the distribution on the carries. I was expecting a little bit to go around the running backs room with Gainwell and Scott, but that's just picking. That's nitpicking. This defense was unbelievable all night, getting after it. Like you said, Slay was locked down. You had a sack from both Cox and Sweat on the front four. They were just hounding Kirk Cousins all night. And this team, the sky's the limit. Like Bryan said, I thought it was an overstatement at first, but after 2 weeks already, I'm starting to see little notes and possibility for an NFC Championship crown. But if I ever talk to another ESPN representative in my life, I will tell them to never put on 2 fucking staggered time slot Monday Night Football games ever again. That is a stupid shit.
Oh man, they're gonna keep doing that. They're gonna keep doing that. They announced. I think next year they're gonna do it 3 on 3 separate weeks.
They're hemorrhaging. That's stupid. They're hemorrhaging money. They're not even making money doing that. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, stupid marketers. Aaron Rodgers back to normal. Bears back to normal as well. Aaron Rodgers seems to be just fine, killing it at prime time. Any momentum the Bears had was crushed with Justin Fields being eat up by the Packers defense. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers defeating the Bears on Sunday night. Anything to take out of that specifically?
Packers still need to work on that chemistry in the pass game, because if you take away the long Sammy Watkins touchdown, Aaron Rodgers, he was efficient, but it wasn't like any big plays. But that's also just depends on Aaron Jones went off this game.
Yeah, I was going to say the run game was solid and oddly underrated with Jones and Dillon. These guys can go they both can have, one could go for over 100, one could go over 70. pretty solid stuff in the run game for Green Bay.
I like this combination with them. I have a prediction for this season that Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon, whatever the record is for most combined 100-yard rushers on a team for a certain amount of games, I'm expecting them to break that, because Dillon had 18 to 61 and easily could have hit 100 if he got a couple more carries. So I could definitely see this team becoming a 2014 Dallas Cowboy. I know I always mention Dallas, but this is the way I look at this team. They do have a big, deep threat in Allen Lazard. They do have a great running game. They have a poised quarterback. They have a good defense. They're going to make some noise. And the Bears, I'm not talking about them. They're the Bears. You have a quarterback that threw 7 balls for 70 yards. Get off the field, and at that point, run wishbone and just play Wildcat. I don't know what to say. Get him off the field. I honestly, I love Chicago so much, the Bears, that I think they no longer need to be a franchise. It should just be a museum.
Oof. Let's get some love from the Bears fans there.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're no strangers to getting shit on by Aaron Rodgers either, and I feel terrible because everybody I've met from Chi-Town is really nice. It's except for the South Side. Here's the deal, though. The only reason I'm yet to crown Green Bay as completely being back is because, like you said, Brian, they do have chemistry issues they have to work out. I think this team should be.
Allen Lazard played only meh, and people expect him to be the number one.
Yeah, and
he's also off injury.
Yeah, but I also don't expect. I think people need to start couching and reserving their expectations as Lazard being anything even comparable to a number one like Devontae was. I think you can have a number one at more of a by committee basis, just spreading the ball around, which I think actually serves Kansas City better as well. If you're going to take that approach to, the distribution that you're getting the ball out to your receivers with, because I think this team is more successful, like you said, Brian, 60-40 run first when you combo with AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones. I think that if they make the transition successfully towards more of a run-first offense, I think the sky's the limit for this team because the division's still open for grabs. I think there's a lot of questions with Minnesota, even though I still like them in this division. And the NFC overall is weak, so I think that they can still get back to being a 10-11 win team, but I'm not going to take anything from this game. They've always dominated the Bears.
Like I said in previous weeks, they're a trade away at receiver for being a real contender. Call up Seattle.
Yeah.
So the Broncos barely beat Houston. Barely. Fans turned off in Denver. You turned off on Wilson already?
No, I think that this is early season woes for a team that's still trying to figure out their identity. I wasn't sold on their coach when they hired him, and I think that they probably have a lot more to work out than they're willing to tell the press. But I also think that Houston, on the same note, is also overperforming because you got Lovie Smith at the helm. They're still playing with house money with their quarterback, with Davis Mills, and I think that they have nothing to lose. I think it's part of the early season woes where you're figuring out your offense and you have bad teams masquerading as 500 teams. So
couldn't agree more. I wish Lovie Smith was the Denver head coach because they would be set up for real contention. I would think Nathaniel Hackett is just not there. He's a good OC, but he's just not there as a head coach. And yeah, there's going to be some woes. They got to figure out their own. And Houston, working with house money, I'm excited for this team. I'm telling you, I keep on saying it. I said it in the preseason previews. This team has potential.
And the only thing that does concern me is Judy with that ankle. Let's see how many weeks he's out, because I think that they're going to start tailoring that offense as closer to a run-first offense with more balls towards the center of the field with the tight end. So we'll see how that plays out.
The Rams and Falcons, a little too close for comfort for LA. Atlanta scores 17 unanswered points on them, but they do hold it off. LA, after getting destroyed against the Bills and then barely holding on against a rebuilding Falcons team, is this team also really suffering from a Super Bowl hangover, and is that clear?
Yeah.
And we could also give some praise for Marcus Mariota, at least, just trying to earn his paycheck. But Cooper Kupp still scored touchdowns for them. Plenty of times in the red zone. Matt Stafford played really well. And Los Angeles holding it down against Atlanta, but a lot of questions for them. And then the last game we could discuss, unless anyone have anything to add with that matchup.
Marcus Mariota, good for him. I'm excited to see that he's actually, he's playing decent. And,
Did throw two picks, though.
He threw two picks.
That was 2 touchdowns.
That was situational. I think one of them was actually a deflection, if I remember. LA's LA. I'm not really worried about them. So, you know what? Learning lessons for both teams.
Hey, yeah, get excited for Drake London, the first round pick for Atlanta too.
I think the only point I have with the Rams, because we said from the get-go at the preview episode that they're going to be working through a lot of shit, micromanaging and adjusting through the season to get ready for the playoffs. I think this offense takes a quantum leap with Van Jefferson back healthy when it's time. So I just want to make that point.
Right, Joe.
And the last matchup before upsets, whimpers, and thrillers. Trey Lance is out. Season-ending ankle injury. Jimmy G is in. They rout the Seahawks 27-7. And 49ers seem to be back to where they were last season, which did lead them to NFC Championship. Do you think they can repeat it again now that officially Jimmy G is the guy?
Absolutely. It's a shame about Trey Lance, but your team just got better through an injury. Your team should be in win now mode, and Jimmy Garoppolo is a win now kind of quarterback because you don't have to go through the growing pains of I call him a rookie quarterback because he hasn't really played. On Trey Lance, Jeff Wilson's playing very well in the running back in the backfield with Mitchell out, and the receiving core is stellar in my opinion with Samuel and Ayuk. So, I expect them to make a playoff run absolutely with this. And Seattle, it's Seattle, Geno Smith, I'm happy he's still starting because, it's just nice to see that he's getting punched in the face in the locker room. So that's always good. Yeah.
Matt, what do you think, brother?
Well, I think if it ain't broke, don't fix it. San Francisco, especially, they've also had a major loss with Mitchell out, and Wilson held his own for the 49ers. But I think so, too. I think they're more exciting than you think, especially on the defensive side. And this team is going to be in a better place, like Bryan said now. And even though Jimmy G might not always put up insane fantasy stats and he might not exactly woo you, the guy simply knows how to win. And that's what counts in this league most of all, a winning quarterback. The guy has led you to a Super Bowl, led you to 2 NFC championships, and now with some upgrades and a healthy bunch, especially in your receiving core, there should be so much to be excited for in San Francisco.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I think this is a Super Bowl roster, and I just don't know what to make of Jimmy G with Shanahan, with or without.
Oh, and also wait until don't forget Greg Kittle coming back too.
Yeah,
a huge addition.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So now we can round out before Bryan has to do his work of the engineering world. We get about 5 minutes to go here. Upsets, whimpers, and thrillers. Here we go. Each week we pick 3 games. That's how we make our predictions. Which one will be an upset? Which one will be a whimper and suck? Which one will be a thriller? I started it last week. Bryan, it's your turn this week, and then Alex will start next week. So let's start it. We'll start with our upsets. Bryan, who do you see performing an upset this week?
So I think this week is probably the most evenly 50-50 split like team balance and opponents in all of the schedule this year, just based on it. It was very hard for me to pick a team for an upset, but I'm going to go the Lions over the Vikings.
At six even at this moment. Okay, why do you say that?
I just think that the Lions offense is in sync in ways I've never seen them in sync before. And that's even with the Matt Stafford, Marvin Jones, Golden Tate teams. They're playing high octane offense, very smash mouth football, running the ball, and with the compliments of their receiving core. And the Vikings, I think that was very demoralizing to them, and I don't think they're going to be able to recover quickly off of a short week after the Monday night game. So
Excellent points right there. What do you say, Alex? Where's your upset coming from this week?
Well, originally I had Detroit defeating Minnesota, but if I need a follow up here, I actually have the Commies upsetting Philadelphia.
That's a bold
that's a
prediction.
good one.
I think this is one of those unsung, kind of underrated, ugly games that's within division where there's a lot of blood going back a few years. And I think that Philly just gets hit in the teeth early and doesn't quite recover and has to play catch-up ball. So I have Washington winning this game in an ugly, low-scoring game, something like 16-9 or 16-13, something like that.
Okay. And my upset, even though it's slight, and we're getting technical here because Bryan is right, they are pretty even matchups. I do think the Houston Texans are going to get their first win on the road against Chicago. As you said, Davis Mills, the third-round pick last year, is showing that he has some core there. They are staying in games, and I see this collapse of the Chicago Bears just continue, especially with Justin Fields looking like he has some identity crisis, and all he can really trust is Montgomery to make some noise on the rushing side. But I think that the Houston Texans are going to just keep being a mess. And watch out, because Damon Pierce could be a legit running back in this league, and taking advantage of a weak defense, they could pull it off and finally go 1-1-1.
Little revenge game for Lovie Smith.
Oh, yeah. Clearly, yes.
Wow,
the former Bears Super Bowl. He took the Bears to the Super Bowl, and the rest get that glorious wins. Mexico, but Devin Hester, the only opening kickoff Super Bowl touchdown. That was as good as it got. So let's talk about our whimpers. Bryan, which game is gonna suck and be boring?
Oh, see, I picked Texans versus Bears, just in the sense that I think that both teams, it's a hard week, and I just think that I think the Texans are going to play so well that I think that how bad the Bears are, it's a whimper, because I'm going to feel bad for the Bears. It's not that both teams are so bad; it's that the Texans are going to absolutely destroy the Bears, in the sense that it's going to be unbearable to watch. So I'm going to whimper as I shut this game off.
Yeah, only a 3-point favorites in Chicago.
Unbearable.
I'll definitely take that money line.
It's unbearable. I'm going to whimper. That's how unbearable it's going to be. I'm going to be like, oh my God, the Chicago Bears should play in the NCAA.
Yo, man, the over-under is 45.5. I guess they really think there'll be some scoring in this. But regardless, whatever. What's going to be a whimper, Mr. Ranelio?
Well, you gave me a layup. Falcons Seahawks is virtually unwatchable. It actually tastes horrible coming out of my mouth saying that. So I will not be watching that game, and I can't wait to watch the highlights on YouTube Sunday night.
Yo, my dudes, I think the whimper coming out of this week is actually going to be San Francisco and Denver. I think this is going to be a Sunday night matchup where San Francisco's only a 1.5 favorites, which both teams still trying to figure out what the hell they're doing. Clearly, the 49ers now has Jimmy G starting. I think against a Denver defense, which is pretty good, I think they can hold it off, but in return, you will not see Russell Wilson connecting with especially Jerry Jeudy out. I don't know if Cortland Sutton will finally come of age himself. It's taken a while for that guy, but I think that game is not going to be must-watch TV. And the thriller this week, Bryan, in your eyes?
I think it's going to be a straight-up shootout, Bills versus Dolphins.
The Bills versus Dolphins in battle of undefeated foes.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be I think that the Bills defense is going to have an off week just because they're due for one. It's very hard for a defense to go 3-0. I feel like Tua is going to run into this week very high, and I expect a shootout. I expect a combination of 8 touchdowns scored by the quarterbacks combined.
8 touchdowns scored by the quarterbacks. Okay, no complaints there, Mr. Ranelio.
Yeah, took the words out of my mouth. But if I'm going back up, I got to tell you, gentlemen, I'm looking forward to this Cowboys-Giants Monday Nighter. I think.
Oh, you know we are too.
Yeah,
open the show with that.
It's not the two powerhouses that we'd expect, but I think it'll be a thriller by virtue of just raw, aggressive nature. This is a deep rivalry. It's bad blood all over the place. I think that it's just got a tough, competitive, hard-nosed game written all over it.
Absolutely.
And for my thriller at 1.5 point favorites, you have the Packers and the Buccaneers. Packers are going to Tampa. Rodgers and Brady, probably for the last time ever, unless they meet in the postseason. It's going to be as fun as it gets. I mean, both quarterbacks they're special, gentlemen. And I understand they they are polarizing figures off the field, but they are the face of our generation when it comes to stellar quarterbacks, and seeing them compete one last time together, at least guaranteed, is going to be special. Clearly, especially with Mike Evans out and Godwin hurt, there's questions for what Brady's going to do with his weapons. Rodgers still trying to find his needs with his new receiving core. But regardless, when you have two of the greats of all time going against each other, it doesn't get any better than that. So, all right, Bryan, you go save the world in the engineering world. Alex, you continue your amazing artistic talents at giving opportunities to other artists in the world. It's going to be another good week of football if it's anything like last week. And we will see you a week from tonight. And definitely you want to see me and Bryan's reaction, and it will be honest and fun. Fuck you, Cowboys. All right, anything else before I go?
I don't like him either right now. Fuck him too.
Oh, come on, man. That's funny. But all right. It's gonna be fun then.
It's all love. Do one act of kindness today, my friends. Let's enjoy the games this weekend. Cheers.
All right.
Be good,
And
everyone.
hopefully when we meet again, Aaron Judge beats the all-time season singing record.
Woo! Yes, sir.
Let's
Go
go.
one baseball. All right. See you later, guys. See you next week. NFL
Bye-bye.
is king.
Take care, boys.